Well, hi there, welcome back to Bus and Beyond, and this is properly exciting. Look at all these lights, control panel, brackets, all sorts of stuff. These have all come from Auxbeam, and we're going to get them installed on the van. This might be quite a long install. Let's see how we get on. Way back when we had our California, the first California, the Blackberry Ocean, we actually got approached by Auxbeam, and they asked us if we wanted to install some external lights on the van. Now at the time we weren't really that fussed because we weren't really modifying the California too much. You know, we put bigger wheels on, that was about it. However, 5-6 years later, now we're building the big green beast of a van. We know that it would look absolutely awesome with a light bar and lights on. So I got back in touch with Auxbeam and said, do you still remember us? Any chance we can install some lights on our van, please? And they said, yeah, absolutely. What would you like to try out? So we've got a whole array of different lights. So let me show you what we've got. So first off, you can see we've got a big switch panel. Now that's going to be the main control unit behind all of these lights. So we'll be able to activate the lights using these buttons, but we'll look at that later on. The big one you can see underneath here, this is a big light bar. It's a 5D Pro light bar, and that is going to go up on the roof. So that is a huge beast of a light, so I'm pretty excited about seeing what that looks like on top of the van. The next one you can see are these are pod lights. These are going to go just above the bonnet, so they're going to sit sort of on top of the bonnet, and they're going to project light out either side, so that'll look pretty awesome. We also have these incredible brackets, really nicely built by Mule Vans. Yeah, so check out the link in the description below. If you have a Crafter or a Sprint or anything like that, they produce these real top quality brackets that allow you to attach lights like this just underneath, well, you see where it mounts, like near the bonnet hinges. So I'm looking forward to seeing them put on. Another set of lights that we've got are these pod lights. These are bright white pod lights, and they're going to go on the back. They're going to go just up there on the back of the van and provide a bit of like working light, really, so that we can light up the back when it's nighttime and we're on camp. And then this box here houses rock lights. So these are, Lizzie's most excited by these. These are tons of little LEDs that are going to go underneath the van. These are RGB as well, so you can change the colour of these. But they're designed... There you go, look. A little light. And they're, like I say, they're RGB, so you can have them all sorts of different colours, but they're designed so that you can see rocks when you're rock crawling. We're very unlikely to be rock crawling. We just want them because they're going to look awesome in photos. I think they're going to really pop and make the photos at night look fantastic, so quite excited by them. I have a rough idea where I'm going to route the cables, but I'm not 100% certain yet. But first thing I want to do is just try and get this big light bar mounted on the roof just to see what it looks like.
I really cannot express how excited I am about the lights, especially the ones that are going to be going under the van. Now, we're absolutely glowing with excitement to announce our paid partnership with Betterhelp. Building a camper van is all about shining a light on new adventures, but let's face it, sometimes your mental baggage sneaks in like an overly dim bulb. So how do you truly illuminate that much needed inner peace? The trick is giving your mental well-being a little extra TLC. It took me light years to realise that prioritising my mental health is a real spark to my creativity. When I'm in a good headspace, I'm not only a better mum, but I also have the mental wattage to brainstorm fresh ideas and get creative with our projects. But let's not flicker about. I didn't get here on my own. Therapy has been my trusty guiding light. That's where our brilliant partner BetterHelp comes in. They'll connect you with a credentialed therapist who knows how to turn on the light and offer solid, unbiased advice. Getting started couldn't be easier. Just click the link on the screen, answer a few quick questions, and voila! BetterHelp will match you with a therapist who's experienced in helping people shine through their mental health challenges. You can do all this from your mobile or computer, so there's no need to use semaphore light signalling. And if a chat on the phone isn't your cup of tea, no worries, you can opt for video calls or even messaging. BetterHelp usually lights the way to a therapist within 48 hours, so you'll be on the road to feeling better in no time. Use the link on the screen or in our description and you'll snag 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. Who doesn't love a bright bargain? We have already seen how much this service has illuminated our family and so many of you lovely folks. So here's a massive massive thank you to Betterhelp for shining bright with us.
Right, first off, let's see what we get inside the box. I wonder if that's the fixings. I'm hoping so, because I'm not sure what fixings to use if not. Oh yeah, look. There we go. Looks like they're the brackets. Some end caps. Instruction manual. Quite heavy duty cable. Sticker. And the actual light bar itself. Whoa, look at that. What a beast. Look at that. That's huge, isn't it? What a beast. So you actually get decent instructions. Like I say, this is the 5D Pro. Let's just see how the legs sort of fit on and go from there. Okay, so it looks like you've got a couple of different ways to mount this. Looks like you can put, you know, these on the end, which is probably what I'm going to have to do. You can also mount it on the bottom, so this just mounts on the bottom like so, and then you can rest it on something and mount it that way. Yeah, bottom mount instructions or side mount instructions. I think that's what we'll be doing, because it is the full width between the two roof rails. So we need to go up on the roof and have a look how it's going to fit. I'm going to get it mounted on the legs, but I'm a bit concerned it's going to be a bit too far back, so I might have to come up with a different idea. Now obviously these legs are going to lift it up a bit, and I can come a bit further forward, but yeah, ideally I'd really like to just get it mounted on these rails. I don't really want to have to use something else. Get the other one mounted. You can see here I've just got these in the garage, but they're not the right size, so I just need to get some correct ones and then actually, you know, use a proper nut and seal that in properly. That is how it is going to fix eventually once I've got the correct thing, and then I'll have to run the cable down through the gland that I've already put in. Look how filthy the roof is. It's disgusting. Needs a good clean. Right, I've just ordered some more T-bolts, hopefully the correct size. It's a pack from Euro Car Parts that has 25, 35 and 45 mil T-bits on the T-bar. So hopefully one of those three sizes should work. Let's have a look at the other lights. Like I say, I've got these brackets by Mule Vans. And then these are designed to go on the bonnet. Look at those, they look incredible. Such good quality. Made out of metal all the way around. Heavy. Looks like it's nicely powder coated. They just plug and play as well, which we'll look at later on. Let's try and get these mounted. So it's just a 13mm socket, but I've got to be careful not to take, I don't really want the bonnet to actually come off the hinge, so I'm going to try and do one at a time. I can work that out. Worried about the bonnet falling off. God, what a mess that would make. Let's just try and loosen it a bit more. Oh God. How can I do that then? Am I missing something? Maybe I am. Maybe another person tell me what to do. That's what I'm missing. These are such heavy bonnets, so I've got to get this right. This is probably more of a two-person job. Don't scratch the bonnet. I don't have enough hands. Stay there, please. Right. scary. Right, you can see what I've done. So it's mounted through the actual bracket, as you can see, the actual hinge for the bonnet. So it's a little bit scary doing it on your own, holding the bonnet, but it's on there. I just wonder if that hole is not quite lined up with where it was before. So hopefully the bonnet will still close and be flush. But I'm going to do the other side, and then if I have to alter the alignment, then I'll look at that afterwards. If I drop any of these nuts, I'm going to have to phone Lizzie to come and rescue me. Otherwise I'll have to stand here all day holding the bonnet. Oh gosh, that was scary. Don't like that noise, do you? No, I do not. Fingers crossed the bonnet shuts. Well, that was a bit scary than I expected. I thought I'd be able to undo one nut, put it on. I don't know why I thought I'd be able to do that. Take the other nut off and then slide the bracket on, leaving the bonnet in exactly the right place. But yeah, you can't do that. You have to commit and fully undo it. But you can see how the brackets look, and yeah, then we can mount the lights on that. Right, I've actually used slightly smaller nuts and bolts than what come with it, just because they were huge and I don't think I really need them that big. Right, I'm going to do the other one before it absolutely chucks it down. Right, well, despite the rain, I've got them mounted, and I just get to take the plastic coating off. Nice. Nice. They look pretty good. They look crazy, don't they? Can't wait to see them lit up. Right, the next thing I'm going to have a look at is the switch panel, and just have a look at where I can mount that, because the weather's a bit unpredictable at the minute. So yeah, I need to be inside for a little bit. So this is the wiring box. So this is what all the wires will go back to. Let's have a look. And it means you don't need to use relays. It's all built in electronically. Gosh, this is made of this is all metal on the back here. It's really good quality. You've got fuses built in. Live and neutral from the battery will come into here, and then yeah, out to all your accessories, and you can have all sorts of different accessories. And then there'll be a connector to an actual control panel, which I'll mount in the dash somewhere. And you can see the control panel here. So this is the tiny little bit that will be mounted inside the actual dash, and this is what you'll press to control each individual light, or whatever I choose to put on there, but obviously in this case it'll be lighting. We've got a load of cables. I just want to have a look where inside the van I can mount this. So those of you who've been watching a few of the previous videos will know that we had VB air suspension installed, and what part of that is pressure gauges and switches that have been mounted where previously there was just what was it? It's just USB ports and a bit of a storage cubby. The USB ports are still there. They're on top of the above the switches, and I'm thinking that I might possibly mount. Which way round does that go? Like that. I'm wondering about maybe mounting this underneath, so that it's either like here, just beneath the switches, or maybe even above the switches. There's a bit of plastic there. One of the reasons why I'm thinking about doing that is because I was obviously there filming when they installed this, and I know what route they took with the pipe work out of the back of this control panel, and they went down the side underneath, and then they've mounted the compressor inside underneath the seat, And there's actually room under there to fit the wiring box, and that would work quite well, I think. And then I can easily access outside of the van as well from underneath here. It's just whether I can, I don't know, I can either put it there maybe. It's got to be reasonably close to the driver, obviously, so that I can turn the lights on and off. I think it'd be nicer if it was mounted there. Decisions. So you can see here I popped out this control panel for the VB stuff, and there's a fair bit of space. I've also taken this grey panel off up here, and I can get behind there quite easily, he says. Maybe I can't actually. Went round the edge there, I'll be able to. It's one of those jobs where you just have to commit and decide where you're going to put it. Right, well, I've committed and I put the unit here, and I quite like it actually. It looks good. It's just bracketed through, and I have actually plugged it in. What I've not shown you is there are stickers that go on here, and eventually I'll be able to put like light bar, you know, bonnet lights, pod lights, whatever they're called, lights, reversing lights and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's in, and the cable sort of routes down through and it pops out in the footwell here. So next job, I need to track that through and under the seat, but that does require removing the seat, so I'll have to do that next. So it's a lovely dry day today, so I'm actually going to tackle installing the rock lights, which is probably one of the most exciting bits. Basically just for photos. I definitely don't need to look for rocks because we won't be off-roading, but yeah, it's pretty simple actually to install, well, certainly to wire up the rock lights. You get a main control unit, which is quite hard to tell. I can't find anywhere that says whether this is waterproof or not. It looks pretty waterproof. It's got sort of seals around the cable entries, but I can't guarantee that it is definitely waterproof. So I'm going to put this in an enclosure underneath the van, and then on the other end you get 12 cables coming out basically, and each one of those cables attaches on the other end to one of these lights. 12 of those that I need to situate all underneath the van. Obviously try and get it symmetrical so it's the same on both sides. Yeah, and just basically put them in places where it should shine quite nicely. They dropped it around the van. You get a nice long cable on it. I'm not entirely sure the exact length of the cable, but it's pretty long. However, I'm going to wire this into the leisure battery so that it can be used. You don't have to turn the ignition on, so you can use it whenever. Just because I think it'd be quite good on campsites to potentially have this on, and then you can find the van easily at night and it'll look quite cool on the campsite. You don't want to flatten the vehicle battery doing that. But all my leisure battery stuff is right at the back of the van, and I think, you know, if I just went straight from the control unit, this certainly wouldn't reach right at the front of the van. So I'm going to extend the cable from the battery, well, from the fuse box to the control unit. That will go through the floor, out, and then I'll put the control unit somewhere in the middle of the van and then feed out, because it's a lot harder to extend these cables because they have like this funny like adapter. Come on, focus. Yeah, they have this like adapter thing on the front there. So that's quite a bit harder to extend that. It's got 4 pins in it, so be some sort of control cable, whereas the cable to the control unit is just a 2-core. Looks about 1 mil, I think, something like that. Gonna focus? Nope. Yeah, it's about 1 mil anyway. Maybe even less. It might even be 0.75, but that'd be a lot easier to extend. I'm just going to slowly work my way around the underneath of the van, fixing these on. Using these heavy duty ramps to drive up. They're rated to like 10 ton or something, but they live outside in the garden when they're not being used, and they've got some pretty big spiders living in them now, so I need to pressure washer them sometime. So like I said, they're pretty straightforward to attach. You just have the cable coming out the actual back of the unit, and then you have, for each light, you have 2 different types of sort of like mounting rubber, which will just help against vibrations and stuff. But one is curved like that, and the other one is flat. So just depending on where you mount them, you just attach the light into that rubber, and you can go out the side like that, or you can go out the bottom, or you can actually go out the back as well, because there's a hole in the back there. So yeah, plenty of different options. I would say for the most part we'll probably just be using the flat one, and I'm just going to use self-tapping screws to screw it into the chassis. So this is right at the back of the van, so in between these two grommets is the centre point. So we've actually got these chassis rails that run all the way down, so I'll probably put one on each side, obviously that side and that side, and then yeah, just work our way forward, finding similar sort of points for them. Right, you can see, so that's that just screwed in and into place, and that's not going anywhere. And then I just need to run the cables back to wherever I choose to put the control unit. Well, as you can probably tell by the change in lighting that has taken quite a long time to do. It's the actual screwing the lights up into position was really quick actually, just 2 pilot holes and then 2 self-tappers straight in. But what took the time was just running the cables down the routings with cable ties, and yeah, it took a real long time, and I was so lucky. So I think in about is it 4 or 6 of the lights you get like an extension cable, so about 1 meter extra of cable, and I just fortunately had enough cable. I went to B&Q to try and get an enclosure to hold the actual control unit in, but there wasn't really anything suitable. So for now I've just fixed it in place, but I'm gonna get something, maybe not like a full enclosure, but just something to stop the spray going up into it. But we'll see how we get on. I have just run a cable for now down and underneath the van, and it's the bit of cable I had wasn't long enough, so I've even bodged it and connected it up. So all I need to do now is wait for it to get dark. Typically we're pretty much right on summer solstice, I think. We're probably about the longest day, so I might have to wait a while. But spoiler alert, I have turned them on. I know the lights work, but I can't actually, it doesn't come up on camera. You won't be able to see it until it's dark, so I will show you. In the meantime, I'll show you what it's like underneath. Just a rough idea. I won't show you all the lights because that'd be very boring. So this is the tightest one actually. This was the last one I did, and I had no more extension cables. So you can see I've used orange cable ties just so you can easily see where it is. And the cable has to cut across, and then it goes up following other cables that go to like the sensors for the exhaust and stuff. So, and it goes behind the heat shield. So I'm hoping that the heat won't be too much and it won't melt the cable. Obviously it's just lighting, so at the end of the day, if it does, it's not the end of the world. I just have to replace it. But yeah, it routes, that one cuts the corner. The rest of them, they actually follow the actual structure of the chassis, and the cable tie into appropriate places. The hardest bit was getting from the front 2 lights and then over the top of the fuel tank. I used like a cable worm to find my way through, but yeah, that was a bit of a pain. So it's actually been a few weeks since I've done anything more with the lights on the van, and there's been a couple of reasons. One, the weather has not been great. Work's got in the way, and also one of the biggest things was I didn't have the right fixing to attach it to the roof rails. You can see here, we've got the roof rails here. These are the factory roof rails, and I've just got a well, initially I put it on using, I've got some little T-bolt things, but they weren't really big enough, they weren't good enough, so I didn't drive anywhere with it on because I was worried that the light was going to fly off, and I didn't take it back off again because we had no plans to go anywhere. However, just tomorrow we are going to Goodwood Festival of Speed, so I need to get stuff sorted, and thankfully the VW Crafter self camper build sort of scene is really, really helpful. There's so much help out there, and one of the most useful places is the Facebook group. There's a Facebook group that has loads of members on that are all building either MANTGE based campers or crafter based campers, and they're so helpful. A guy there, so basically I asked a question, what are people using for the roof rails? And a guy on there said, well, fear not, I can make you something. So he's been so helpful. He's actually sent me a guy called Chris. So thank you, Chris. I know you'll be watching this. He's sent me some T-bolts, which he's cut down, sprayed black as well, just so they last loads longer. And they're basically, I think they're like the Zebedees from Unistrut, but cut down, and then, yeah, and then sprayed black with a nut on top and a washer. So hopefully this should fit. Let's check it out. There you go, you can see that that goes in loads better. Yeah, that's going to be spot on. There we go, that's nice and secure. I've already done the other side, so that feels like it's not going anywhere. Well, you join me again quite a few months later. It's been a combination of different things, namely having two very young kids, which have got in the way, and our summer here in the UK has just been absolutely terrible. It's now definitely well into autumn, but I have actually got the lights wired up, fully working and fully installed. Just a few tidying up bits that I need to do. But it was one of those projects that took me a while to get my head around, and I must admit, because I didn't have a huge amount of time, I kept thinking, how am I going to connect it to the battery? How am I going to get a switch live and all that kind of stuff? It's not stuff I've done before. So I had to do a fair bit of research, and also I didn't film like all the trial and error because you'd be here forever. I thought it'd be best to show you exactly how I've done it, the routes I've taken with the cables, and hopefully, you know, if you've got an MANTGE or a crafter, you'll be able to sort of follow the same or similar steps to me if you want to install a roof light and or bonnet lights. But yeah, let's show you what I've done. There's a few different things. I needed to get cables, obviously from here, these two lights, through into the van. And I must admit, that was one of the initial stumbling blocks, because I didn't know how to get a cable through the initial bulkhead into behind the dash. And I also didn't want to take the dash fully apart, because I don't like the idea of potentially breaking clips and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it'd be impossible to get a cable from the engine bay into the dash without taking the dash apart. So what I was actually going to do initially, way back when I installed the battery to battery charger, I took it off this. This is like a separate feed from the battery. So this is what you use for jump starting the van and all that kind of stuff. But it does have some access to some fuses. So what I've done with that is that goes down through trunking and it drops off down by the side of the engine and underneath. And I thought I was going to have to go down and then back up into the cab, which obviously was a lot more challenging than just a straightforward connection. So I knew that was going to be time consuming, so that's what kept putting me off. But what I actually did was again sent out a question on the VW Crafter and MANTGE Facebook group, which are absolutely fantastic. They're so useful. They just get back to you so quickly with the answer. And I wanted to know if there was a straightforward way of getting the cable through, and it turns out there is. So again, just behind this this sort of electrical connection bit, it's going to be hard to see, but there is a grommet. Can you see that at the back there? It's quite hard to see. Now it has a big, that's where the wiring loom goes in there, but they're just at the top, which you can just make out right at the back. There's that bit where you can see a cable going off inside the grommet is actually fully sealed. You just snip the end off that and run a cable into there. What you need to do is, I initially started with the cable I was going to use, which is a 3-core, was it 3mm? 2.5mm maybe. A 3-core cable. I sent that in, kept feeding loads of cable in, but it was kind of going up and off somewhere else. I couldn't find it the other side. Then I used like a cable routing tool, which is like a more rigid, flexible pipe thing. Again, quite thin, but it's really rigid. You know, shove that in. It was going in probably about a foot and then stopping dead. It wasn't going any further. Couldn't find that either. So after a lot of trying, I actually reverted to a much more flexible, thinner cable. Fed that in, loads and loads of the cable, and where that comes out is, so here's the dashboard, and it drops down. You can see where that cable is now, just there. That cable there is where it drops down. So I've fed plenty of cable through, then attached the cable I actually needed onto the end and pulled it back through, and it went through nice. This is obviously all the flooring has been taken out so that I can access all this. But yeah, you don't actually need to dismantle the dash at all. It just drops down and you can then feed it underneath, which I'll show you in a minute. So actually quite a bit more straightforward than I initially thought. At least I didn't have to do a full long run underneath the van, run it through trunking and all that, lift the van up to get underneath it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, actually loads better. Now with the actual pod lights, what you get is you get like a full wiring loom. So the cable, you have a connection that end, which you can see goes up just at the side there and up to the back of the pod lights. Same on this side. And what they do is the cable routes back and joins here in the middle. That cable then goes off down to a relay with a switch, and yeah, you've got, it's a 3-core cable on both sides that then join to one 3-core cable. So the full wiring loom has switches, relays, fuses all built in. Now because I'm using the Auxbeam big 8-gang switch panel, I do not need the relay, I don't need the fuses and all that kind of stuff, because that's all built in to that switch panel. So the 2 cables join together to make one 3-core cable. I snipped the end off that and I connected my own 3-core cable, which is the one that I routed through into the cab. And because that switch panel houses all the electronic relays built into it, you just can do away with all that wiring loom. It's really good actually. It just makes it much more straightforward to install. Now this is going to look initially quite daunting, but it really isn't. So first of all, I removed the passenger seat. Really straightforward to do that. Thankfully I learnt that from when I was getting the air suspension installed, because the compressor and everything is all installed under here, and they showed me that it is just 4 bolts, 2 at the front, so you slide the seat all the way back, undo the 2 bolts at the front, then slide the seat all the way forward, undo the 2 bolts at the back. You need to unplug the like the heated seat plug, and that's sensors and all that kind of stuff, so you just unplug that and take the seat out. So really straightforward. So basically that gives you access to this bit. So there's a fuse box underneath there with loads of different fuses in, and then this box here, you won't have that unless you've got air suspension. That's just a compressor for the semi-air suspension on the back. This panel here is installed on the side here. Again, just 3 screws which you just take out, and then once you've taken that out, and also the cover that covers the toolkit, you can then lift up the carpet really easily. Well, I say carpet, it's like a rubber floor. You can lift that up, and then you can lift up the black panel that reveals the battery. So the beauty of it is the fact that the battery is so close to the fuse box. So that really helps. So that gave me the decision that I was going to mount the panel just here. So yeah, so going back to those pod lights, the cable routes all the way down through, and it then gets wired into this unit. You connect all your accessories into here, and then this is connected, let me just take this off, this is connected to the battery with a fuse built in. So all this stuff is included. So you get your, I think it's a 10mm cable, which you can see here is routed round, goes through a little isolator, 60 amp isolator, and yeah, is connected into the battery. So you've got a few different options here. If you want, you can put a bolt through here and add another fuse in. I actually didn't, I just ran it straight off this other terminal here, the same terminal which is used for the compressor. According to the instructions, the negative has to go all the way back to the battery. Now, I actually didn't do that. I did use a ground point, but I did use like a designated ground point, so it should be absolutely fine, and everything does work, so I'm sure it is. And the point I use, it's going to be quite hard to see, is right down here. So I just undid that nut and I attached it onto the bottom there. Again, that's what the guys at Out and About used for the compressor, so I feel like it should be absolutely fine. To route the cables, there is just a multi-core cable, just this, like, it's like a braided line cable, which is quite good. To route that again comes down underneath the seat, through the past the battery, and then it runs up the side here. Again, you can see the air lines go that way, so that's why I knew that route was pretty good. And then it goes up into the back of that. If you lift up where the USB connectors are, you can easily see down, and you can easily get the cable down and out. You don't need to take all this off or anything. You can get straight down and find your cable at the bottom here. Another challenge that you face with is the whole panel should only be live when the ignition is on. You don't want it live all the time, otherwise it'll flatten your battery. So you get this included ACC cable, and basically that's got a piggyback fuse, which I'll show you in a second, and you need to find a source of a switch live feed. Now, I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to do that. You could go around with a multimeter, but amazingly I don't even have a multimeter, something I do need to get. But again, the VW Crafter and MANTGE Facebook group, there's a post on there that shows you exactly where some of the switch lives are, so I'll show you where they are now. So if I just take this cover off. Right, so once you've taken your fuse cover off, you can see this bank of fuses here. So basically anything from this 10 amp fuse down to this 10 amp fuse, they are all activated only when the ignition is on. Someone's already done the legwork for me, found that out, which is great. So I connected this piggy bank fuse, which is really straightforward. You know, you can see that was an empty slot right there in the middle, and you've got a little 5 amp fuse built in, and then it just slots straight in, so you don't have to do any wiring or anything like that. Just pop it straight in, boom, that's in quite nicely. That then just goes round straight into the ACC port, and yeah, it just means that this whole system will only come live when you've got the ignition on. Now, another option you can do is you could wire it straight from the leisure battery, therefore you could use the lights all the time, but they're so bright on the roof. I know that there's no way I need to run them when we're actually camping. I'm sure I would soon annoy all our neighbours. So, and also the other thing is, our leisure battery is right at the back, so I'd have to run cables so far up to the front here, up to the pod light. So I didn't really want to do that. If it turns out that we want to do that, you know, if we want some external lights around the side, I can just put a separate one in at the back and have it on a completely different system. But yeah, I just like the idea of, you know, the driving lights and everything will only work when we're driving. And then once you've got everything connected up, you then have 8 different channels, all controlled by the 8 different switches on here. So each one, as you go along, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that corresponds to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, you remember earlier that I said that it's a 3-core cable that goes to those pod lights. And the reason for that is because they have like a daytime running light function on them. So you can have just a small orange light running all the time as you're driving along, just makes you a bit more noticed on the road, I suppose. And then you have the full pod when you want to turn them on. Now, how I knew how to wire them up, again, more help, but this time from the Crafty Blinder Van Build YouTube channel. So Sam from that channel doesn't know it, but he really helped me out because he's installed an even bigger one of these, a 12 gang system, and he did a really similar setup. So they've got pod lights, and then, you know, they've got loads more lights. They've got lights down the side and all sorts. I watched this video and found out a few things from him. What he doesn't know is that I just basically copied what he did for the pod lights. From the pods, you can see you've got a red, a black and a white. The white portion is for your daytime running lights. Now, when I connected it, crimped it together, the cable I've got the third core is actually green, so that's why it now ends up green in here. So the way you connect it up is you've got your red and black for your normal pod lights, and then for the daytime running light portion, you just connect the green into the red bit of one of the other terminals. You don't need to have another black bit, because you don't need another black connection, because all those negatives are all joined together within the system. So yeah, makes it really straightforward. So you have two separate switches, one for the daytime running lights and one for the pod lights. The other connection in here, this is for the roof light, the big bar on the roof. So that's much more straightforward. It is just a red and black. The only thing that is a bit trickier is obviously making your cable route from here up to the roof. That can be quite daunting. So let's go up onto the roof and I'll show you the route I took. So there is our LED bar light. Absolute beast, goes all the way across. Obviously, like I say, if I feel like I need to, I can just build a bracket to extend that out so it's a little bit further forward. I think it's going to be okay. What with having the pod lights for lower down and then this higher up, it should be okay, hopefully. That's pretty grim, isn't it? Look how dirty that is. Right, the cable, that 2-core cable, comes out of here, and there is actually a plug that comes with it, but again, I just chopped that off because I didn't need the plug, and then I've jointed the cable and put some heat shrink over the top. I'm actually going to get some open flexible conduit and just put that over the top as well, just to protect it a bit more. It then goes down through this scan strut cable gland, and that drops down. These are great, by the way. You know, got a couple of different ones. Got one that goes backwards for the solar, and then this one that allows you to send cables forwards and backwards. Yeah, really, really good bit of kit. Really easy to install, straight down, no messing. And basically, the cable then drops down through the roof. Through the roof and then down. I've actually used the B pillar as my route. So basically, the cable drops down. You can sort of peel this back and get the cable drop down through here, and it drops all the way down. Then once it's at the bottom, I routed it under this carpet bit here, shoved it through, and that then pops out underneath the fuse box. Yeah, underneath the fuse box, and then connect it up nicely. And again, yeah, really straightforward. I'm gonna sticky velcro this onto the top of here so I can remove it nice and easily. It does actually come with a few different mounts, so you can actually mount this, but it was a bit tight. You know, I could have put it there maybe, but then you wouldn't be able to get the fuse box open easily enough. Yeah, it was a bit hard to work out where to put it under here. There was that, and also you get a flat mount as well, so I could always screw it onto the top here, but I just think that's a little bit unnecessary. It's not going to be chucked around all over the place, and it's not that heavy that it's going to be a big problem. Just noticed this, I didn't even notice that. On the bottom of the cover, you've actually got a few spare fuses. That's quite nice. Right, let's actually show you the lights in action, because that is the exciting bit, isn't it? Right, so like I say, it only comes on with the ignition. So turn the ignition, and there you go. It lights up nicely. It is green at the minute, but you can have loads of different colours, which we'll have a look at in a minute. And at the minute, you can see that there is like no indication of what is where. But you get these stickers with it. Look at all these different things you can put on. So you can see the ones up at the top there, light bar. So I'll be using one of those. You also get some blanks as well for the bits that you're not using. But yeah, there's all sorts on here. And I think if you go online, you can get even more. There's absolutely tons. Let's get the ignition on. And we can see what it looks like. Let's get the lights turned on. So as you can see, they are unbelievably bright. As you get a bit further away, you can really see just how bright they are. And that roof light kind of fans out the light to the side as well. So on this side, it fans it out this way, and then on the other side it fans it out that way, so it's pretty amazing. This is before we even actually got the LED headlights on. If I turn the pod lights off, you'll be able to see the daytime running lights. So I think that looks pretty cool. I like that. That light bar is just insane, it's so bright. Right, another neat feature is you can actually control this from your smartphone. In the manual, it gives you a QR code, and that sends you to the App Store so you can download whatever relevant app, depending on whether you're on Android or iOS. So you can then control all sorts of different things in here. You can control, like I say, the colour. So let's see what... Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Loads of different colours. You can change the brightness, so you can dim it right down, which is quite nice. What I quite like the idea of is, because our van dash is all sort of white, I'm probably going to keep it white so it matches, just so it looks pretty cool. And then I quite like all the lights dimmed, so I'll probably leave it dim. That'd be way too bright and full. You can then also control the icon, so you go to the icon button, decide which bank you're looking at. So the first bank there, you can add a photo if you want. I don't really know how you do that. Default icon. Now I know, look at all these different ones, there's loads. I know that that is the light bar, which is there. So select that, and then that puts the light bar on there, which is pretty cool. I think that one there, default icon, I think that was the... Are they spotlights? I suppose they probably are. Let's go spots. And then that one was daytime running lights, which is that one there, daytime running lights. Yeah, and then we can go back, and then that saves them in there. The rest are all blank, and you can actually turn these on and off using the thing. So you can see there, you can see it going on and off. As I press the spotlight button, you see that light going on just there. So you can control it all from your smartphone if you want, which is pretty neat. Another thing you can do is you can go to mode, and you can change the buttons to be either toggle switches, so your standard on, off, momentary, so it'll only work when you hold the button down, or pulsed, where it's like a rave basically, and you can choose how fast you want that to pulse. So if I turn that down, you might be able to see in the reflection of the car, you see it flashing, which is ridiculous. There's actually people out there, it's actually embarrassing. So we won't do that. That must look crazy on the roof, like a blooming rave. So let's change that back to toggle. But yeah, there's certainly certain things that you might want it to be a momentary light. So, or you know, for example, if you connected a horn onto this, you'd only want it to be on when you press and hold the button. So you can change that to momentary then. So that's quite cool. I'm not sure you need the pulsed one very often. Another thing you can do is you can group lights. So you can add, say, the spotlights and the light bar together. So that if you're off-roading, you just press one button and all the front lights come on. So that'd be quite useful. So there's quite a few different things you can do with it. It's pretty cool. You can go into the settings. What does that do? Well, you can change the background of your app. You've got a user guide and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, mainly for setting up really. I think most of the time I'll just be using the controller. Once I've got the stickers on here, this will all be pretty cool and straightforward. You can just go dink, dink. I like it. No doubt Harvey will be pressing it all the time as we're driving along. So I'm actually really impressed with that. I've just got to do a bit of tidying up, like I say, attach the Auxbeam box onto the top of the fuse box. Yeah, just tidy up a few of the cables and that kind of stuff. But I'm really, really pleased. I wish I'd just done it sooner. It's one of those jobs that I kept putting off because I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to connect everything up, but it's actually far more straightforward than I initially thought. I've actually got another couple of lights to install, which I think I might put right at the back. Again, I'll just have to route them a similar way to the roof light, but just extend the cable further and go right to the back. And I'll probably use them as like a reversing light, or, you know, campsite setting up light. But yeah, really pleased. It looks really cool. I'm really pleased. I love how they look. The lights are so bright, absolutely crazy. And I love the way it all works. It looks really cool. Yeah, a bit OEM there on the dash. I like that. If you're interested in getting some Auxbeam stuff, click on the links in the description below, because you'll actually get 15% off, which is pretty awesome, isn't it? So yeah, click on those links in the description below. Have a good browse of their website and see what things you want to get. And if you've got any questions at all as well, please just drop them in the comments below, and I'll try and answer them for you, or I'll go to the Facebook group, find out the answer and come back. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please hit that like button if you've enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing as well, because there's so much left to do. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.